Welcome to SEL in EDU.
where we discuss all things social and emotional in education.
I'm Krista.
And I'm Craig, and we are your host on this journey.
This podcast is created in partnership with Pennsylvania ASCD.
Good day, good day, good day, good day, SEL and EDU family. We are here again, doing it like we do. Krista, how are you holding up these days? We are now in February.
We are. And by the time people listen to this, I think we're going to be heading out into March. But for those of you who are listening in March, today is actually Groundhog's Day. And I just read that we're supposed to get 6 more weeks of winter. And I'm putting that in air quotes for people who can't see, because here in PA, we haven't really had much of a winter. And so I'm enjoying that, honestly. I'm not a cold weather person. And so I'm looking forward to it. And I'm not going to lie, in 2 weeks, I have a vacation to Jamaica, and I'm like, bring it on, warm, beautiful weather, new place I haven't been before. So I'm looking ahead. How about you? Where are you at today?
I am in all kinds of places. It was really great to be able to hit the gym this morning while it was like, I don't know, 12 degrees. And I'm just like, oh, and I'm not in my 20s and my 30s anymore. So like my body's like, hey man, what you think you doing? Like even when I kind of slowed it down, because it's good when you get the body running, doing this thing, and feel like I can produce more and I can be more agile. But my body's like, not. It's not going the way you think it's going. We have a negotiation working, so I'm working through it.
I have to give you snaps though for getting to the gym. I don't think I've stepped foot into a gym since I went back to school 10 years ago.
Oh no, I'm cornbread fed, and I'm trying to, there's a whole lot of things in play. So I'm just like, look, I need
cornbread fed.
Yes, I did. I'm like, okay, they got, this COVID 25 and 30 is just trying to hold on. I'm like, I can't do it. Not today. Not on my watch, as Yana says.
Crack me up.
Oh, gosh. Well, we have an incredible friend to the show who is here.
Yes, we
Abby French, or Abigail French. And Abby is an accomplished presenter, curriculum writer, mentor, facilitator of Self-Determined Learning Lab at Frederick County Middle School in Winchester, Virginia. At the center of her work, at the heart of it, she's working with scholars and adults, and her belief is that building a culture rich in empathy and inquiry best supports deep learning experiences and growth for all community members. See, Abby is a co-developer of the ASCD's Champions in Education Leadership Program for Mid-Career Educators. In 2022, Abby was selected as the recipient of Virginia's ASCD Impact Makers Award. And I mean, because, she just doesn't have enough to do. She serves as an innovation and social studies coach with Virginia Lynn as part of the Virginia Department of Education sponsored Virginia Assessment Collaborative. And then in September 2020, Abby was awarded membership to the ASCD class of 2020 Emerging Leaders. Additionally, in her involvement as a board member with Unison EDU, a nonprofit organization, Abby works to provide equitable professional development in schools. And just in case you're like, oh my gosh, she is so amazing, you might possibly see her outside of her school because she loves the outdoors. She spends time at a number of wonderful places, including the Nature Camp, Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia, and it is a great place to get that reset. And so we are so excited. Abby, how are you doing today?
I just want to say that was just quite an introduction, especially your flair with it, Craig, is fantastic. That's the best thing ever. Anyway, so thank you very much for that. I'm doing great today. I'm sitting, may not be able to see this, somebody listening right now, but I'm sitting in my classroom at Frederick County Middle School in Winchester, Virginia. And this is, my classroom is home to the Self-Determined Learning Lab for seventh graders. I teach 240 seventh graders on a day 1, day 2 basis.
Holy cow.
Yeah, that's a lot to unpack right there. But it's my dream job. It really is. Not without kinks, but my dream job.
So can you tell us what, because this is something new for the district, can you tell us more about what drove this to be created, why it's your dream job, and what it is that you do with students during the day?
Yes, I can do all that. But so to put it in context, this is an iteration of philosophy and a kind of embracing an ideology or pedagogy of that students need to lead their own learning for a number of reasons. And our principal, Dr. Jerry Putt, has been really championing this work for a number of years. So it's why I took the position last year as a history teacher, just to get to be in this building, working with Jerry, doing this kind of work that centers the student and honors their, what I feel is a human right, but also their ability really to self-direct and to build those skills that allow students to self-direct, right? And so it's this whole idea. It's more than just an assignment or a learning experience here or there. It's a culture, and it's operating on in different ways within the building. So my self-determined learning lab is one component of systems and structures already in place here at Frederick County Middle that allow students to have agency, really much more than just saying voice and choice. Like on a number of different levels in our building, we have a school within a school. We have certain programs that every scholar in our building participates in. For example, in the beginning of every day, every single day, students choose how they're going to spend the last 45 minutes of their day. And what they do is they determine if they need to be in a study hall, like to receive extra support or to finish something. A lot of our student athletes will choose something like that because their afternoons and evenings become so busy. Or they can choose perhaps to meet friends in a chill zone where they can just hang out with friends, like just hang out. Or they might choose a sports activity going on, like frisbee golf or rugby or something going on being offered by teachers in the building. In your intro, Craig, you mentioned that I love being outdoors and that I kind of got that love early on at nature camp here in Virginia. And I do nature eco-photography activities or nature appreciation walks. We sit on this amazing 63-acre campus with wetlands, wooded areas, fields, and I'm always looking for ways to get kids outside because the learning environment outside is really just as fantastic as it is inside here. And so that program is called Flex Time Learning, where kids, like I said, in the morning, they come in, they sit down in our rooms, and they sign up for whatever type of activity they're going to need at the end of the day. Putting that control in the hands of our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students is something that we know from a lot of research. By turning that control over to students, it's healing. This particular school, my school population is very rural, and there's a lot of poverty and a lot of issues that our school communities deal with. And we know that when people are in those situations, especially if you're a child, there's a lack of control. And so this connection and belief that turning control over to kids is healing is something that we embrace.
Thank you, Abby. Um, I'm heartened because you are working with some of the most marginalized within the marginalized in regards to having access to resources that sometimes we naturally take for granted. I'm imagining that means you have to be creative with how you design lessons and experiences. But sometimes you also have to be creative in regards to just creating a space to nurture what comes in the door. And so
Right.
right
Yes.
now, there's a lot of things going on across the nation in regards to, I mean, there was definitely at this point in our time, um, political, movements for and against like social emotional learning and well-being and culturally responsive teaching and all those things. But
Virginia's
you,
a hotbed for it,
mm,
unfortunately.
yeah, I'm curious, how are you, and I love this term, making magic with the molecules you have to ensure that you're um, welcoming those young people with all of the challenges that are showing up. So I'm curious, how are your young people showing up today or these days in the midst of
Um,
all of this?
I think one of the things I can say that I most appreciate about the idea of self-determined learning and creating a space for that is that it meets every student where they are. It meets them where they're walking in the door, right? It says that we honor what you deciding what you need, and and that's kind of a glossy view of it. Don't get me wrong, I have to, I'm chasing kids down, uh, helping that, like, self-motivation is an issue, like that's something that kids struggle with.
Mhm.
Um, Executive functioning skills are things that kids in seventh grade traditionally are going to struggle with. I mean, that's the animal, right? And so self-determined learning does a lot of things, but at the very root, it says, um, what is important to you is important here, and we want to amplify that. And so I really love the idea that it does meet an SEL kind of component because it's acceptance. Um, but kids showing up, I teach every seventh grade scholar. I've got the very driven students who are just, they've got an idea, they want to run with it, they run with it right now before we're even caught up to like what they're just ready. I've got students that have no idea how to self-direct, and need a lot of support in those beginning stages of how to formulate a plan, goal setting. Like, there's so many avenues to meet kids where they need that. But it really embraces, what I love so much is that it embraces creativity. It embraces collaboration, communication, those really important skills that are transferable. The other components that something like my class kind of centers around is the idea that research is really important. Fact finding is really important. So whatever your idea is for a project, then we're going to find information about it. And so I'm able to pair up with the library media specialist to create what is the research process. We do that at the beginning of the year. But then there's this design element that comes into play in project work, where it's the ideation is where the brilliance and the creativity is, not necessarily the end product. It's your ideas that I want to capture. It's that moment that the light bulb goes, oh, I want to do this. And so this focus on creativity and trying something out and then going back into a revision process. There's a lot of peer critiquing, which requires you teaching with sentence stems how to be kind and give feedback. I mean, there's like so many moments that can really impact a kid moving forward in how they communicate, how they collaborate with partners. there's a lot of the social piece too, which of course 7th graders are all social driven. Like that's their motor. A lot of kids find themselves in little conflicts about a project or about working together or how to navigate something or a friendship that falls out in the middle of a project. How do you deal with that? And so again, a number of learning opportunities all within one project.
As I'm listening to you talk, I'm incredibly excited because it's very rare in my experience over 17 years to find a school or a class that truly does explicitly focus in on all 5 competencies at once. And often people will say, oh, I do that all the time. I'm like, well, tell me about it. And it's hard to really pinpoint. And so I've been jotting down everything that you've been sharing. And when we're looking at SEL, we talk about the 5 competencies. And you started off by highlighting the self-management piece with increasing student agency and giving them an opportunity to look at their own sense of self, which is self-awareness, and their interests. But it's really tied into, and I'm seeing a cyclical piece here with that motivation and goal setting and moving yourself forward, and how that could also link and help you learn more about who you are and what your interests are. And so often people think about, well, who are you and what are your emotions? And then how do you manage them? But I'm hearing things come from a self-management point of view, and you're learning about yourself, you're learning about other people, and you're entering into a space where you talked about social awareness, honoring what you need and being empathetic and taking other people's perspectives and allowing students to be who they are in that moment, while also building among relationship skills with collaboration and conflict, and that how do we manage these pieces, and bringing in the responsible decision making with being curious, being creative, and going through the scientific process of what is fact, what is fiction, what do I need to keep moving forward in this project. And so I'm like, holy cow, this one class hits on every competency very, very explicitly. And you focus too on something that I know you're incredibly passionate about, and that's about looking at other ways to authentically not only engage, but assess student learning. And so you focused on process over product. And I know that you focus, even before coming into this position, on really looking at grade lists and feedback.
Right.
Could you talk about too how that came together into this project, this class that focuses on SEL and a new way? It's not a new way, but you're actually enacting what this would look like, while the rest of us are like, well, how do we move away from grades?
Right. And then that's partly why I say this is my dream job, because it offers an entrance ramp into so many of those things that you just explained beautifully. But the grading piece for me is something, if it were up to me, I would not there wouldn't be grades for K, maybe up to K8 or K7. It would be focused on a lot of self-assessment. Are you proud of your work? What did you learn? What are your takeaways? How can you apply this moving forward? And so one of the things that I do within projects is I do have kids really self-assess their learning process. It includes the end product. How would they assess how did it turn out? Is this what you wanted? But it also is about what skills can you identify within the project that you just completed that you could move forward with? What did you learn how to do? And so, like I explained a minute ago, that at the beginning of the year, we really did focus on the research process. And one of the skills that we were teaching specifically was note-taking and citation. And so we showed kids how to use Google Keep, right? As they're researching, to take notes and to how to share that and and create a citation in that and have a place that they could organize their information and go back to it. And then fast forward to February, and we're in the middle of this huge culture project where students had to identify, choose a culture, something different than their own around the world, research it, and create a project to demonstrate what they've learned. And they cannot use Google Slides or make a poster because they've done that. And that's their comfort zone. So I want to push them to be creative. And I've got students that are painting. I've got students that are sculpting something. I've got students that have written a script to like act out something. They're going to video it. But this idea that within the project that you will be able to take these skills and transfer them to the next thing in my class, outside my class, down the road. And I have students that I look like as they're researching this culture project, they were using Google Keep. They were using that technique, not everyone, but that's an example of how this kind of works. But the self-assessment piece is really what I care about. I want them to value what their own take is. What did you learn? Reflect on it, because I think that is where the learning happens. You're going to have lots of different experiences, some positive, some negative. You might find out that the project you wanted to create did not go at all the way you wanted it to. Okay, the learning is, why didn't it? What did you get from that? What can help you next time to be more successful? Or if you nailed it, what were the components? Can you identify them that helped you be successful? And so it's not my assessment of their work. It's their own assessment of their learning. If it is truly their learning, they should be the ones assessing it. And that's easy to do in this type of like class, right? Because it's not a curriculum based, did you learn this vocabulary? Did you learn this specific math skill? It's a little bit, I recognize it's a little bit easier to kind of get a general type of assessment of what they've learned when it's truly their learning that they're going after, their path.
It really resonates and makes me think about school-wide campaign, but I've also done this in the classroom as well. We did something called Genius Week. And what we wanted to do is recognize that each person in our community, no matter if you are one of our scholars, one of our educators, our parents, community partners, possesses genius. And all of your interests can be codified into this experience that you can share with folks in a multitude of ways. And we, in my classroom as an educator, I had Fridays where a lot of project-based learning, a lot of, very similar to you, rubric-based. Here are the key criteria we're looking for. There was very much a reflection question or a reflection experience that they were expected to create, to talk about what are they learning about themselves as they continue to learn as they're forward. What are the questions that they feel like they've answered, and what are the questions that aren't answered? And we situated it in a classroom about problems of practice that are right in the community. So it could be about, well, why is it that no one has fixed the swings in our little playground in our community? Who do we talk to? How do we actually advocate to the city government? If it's about trash and recycling and composting, and why is it that there's not a composting station in their subsidized housing development, but they really are interested and driven about sustainability efforts? Who do we talk to? And so having students really find, this is the person. Look, Mr. Martin, they got a photo. So I know what they look like when I see them. I'm like, okay, we ain't gonna be little gangsters just rolling up on folks, but we can send an email, right? We can invite them to come in and help us to understand what it is.
Yeah. I mean, the empowering them to use their voice, to use their energy, and their what they're passionate about. That's everything. That's creating, a citizenry that takes action and knows how to. And I love that part of it. That is so empowering.
Yeah, I could tell you that. Yeah, it was great in my classroom, but I could tell you for there were 12 other classrooms where it was like, it's cute that y'all doing that, but I don't know whether or not we can take time out of our day to actually build that in. And so my question, resides in this wonder of, as you're talking to other educators, because I know that you are, what is some of the advice that you are offering and extending to other educators and leaders if someone is trying to pilot something like this, whether or not it's a small scale in their classroom, like I do, like on a Friday, like we've done our
Right.
testing,
I
we got
think
this,
that's fantastic.
or you are one in an environment where grades do matter, like it's very high stakes. And so
Sure.
just kind of curious what your advice is for folks in regards to still being able to generate great yield from student agency, voice, and that self-driven nature, but also providing some sense of like, okay, how can we make this realistic in my space, as a teacher, and for school leaders who might be listening to this, to also empower and affirm educators who might be taking this risk?
That's a great question. And that is also, recognizing that there are teachers and building leaders that are at different places with their comfortability and facilitating these kinds of things. So it is kind of a leap of faith. So I first want to just say to that just get started. Like, take one assignment or a project or a Friday, like you said, Craig, and just shift your thinking in terms of teacher directed to one of as a partner or a facilitator, where the kids are learning and embracing it, going after something in their own way. So instead of asking students within an assignment to everyone create the same thing, create a video or create a poster, allowing for that space for kids to show their learning in a way that's meaningful to them. I go back to probably what is my inspiration, which is my oldest son, who from the time he was 6 years old knew that he was meant to tell stories in a visual way. And his love of film was born early on. But it also incorporated like writing. He didn't want to just direct film. He wanted to also write what he was directing. And so as a mom of a kid living in rural Virginia, where our school systems are traditionally underfunded every year, not a lot of resources, and certainly nothing around with youth filmmaking, it was just daunting and excruciating as a parent to not have my son's talents strengthened or even recognized, to watch his motivation to go to school, to sit in a class and do the same thing everyone else was doing, every assignment, cookie cutter, watch his spirit completely like deaden kind of to going to school, tremendous anxiety every day to show up because you're not recognized for who you are. And there's no space created for that. And so I think like, even if teachers could have said to Stephen, this is what you're learning, you can decide to show it to me in a paper or in a film or in a whatever way you want to do it, like that at least gives kids, you are meeting them where they are. That is an easy way. You still get to see the information they learn, but they get to be who they are. Like, I love that. So that's an easy one to start with. But creating a class, this class is like a fifth core class. This SDL is a fifth core class that we offer students. Every student has to take it. So if it's not being done in another classroom, there is this class where it's being done. Then that was the thinking behind it. How to take a genius hour and make it an everyday kind of experience for students. And so I value that importance, that value on this type of learning. But then in our school, and again, this happened, we started at a genius hour. 5 years ago, it was the whole school committing to doing a genius hour project. okay, in their classrooms. But it evolved then to, wouldn't it be great to have another group of students, a school within a school where they could really focus on this. And it was kind of a lottery style thing where kids could apply to get in, or if they're interested. And so these kids now take morning classes and their afternoons are spent in project workshop time. Okay, so there's that component. And now we've got, like I was speaking to earlier about like the flex learning time where kids sign up for something at the end of the day, at the beginning of the day, they sign up for the end of the day. So there are ways, and I guess it's more than just a class. It is systems and structures by a school leader in a school division that says this is valuable work, and we're going to promote it. It's not just an assignment, it's a structure and a belief system. But there are many different entry points, and it's taken 5 years of committing to this and seeing what works and what doesn't work, and finding people that believe in it to come on board.
One of the things that I wrote down as you were speaking, and I've got little sticky notes everywhere, by the way, was core values. And really having, I think, the educators look at what are your core values and how are they manifested in the classroom? And one of the things that you talked about that has become incredibly important to me is creating a space where people feel they can be themselves and honored for who they are. And that doesn't happen everywhere. And that we just start in a small way anyway and keep moving forward.
And I started.
Yes. And then go back and refine, because the getting started is the scary part. And it's not going to be perfect. And Simon Sinek calls it like the bad first pancake. Like,
yeah,
pancake always sucks.
It says progress over perfect.
Yes.
Don't let perfect get in the way of progress.
And that reminds me of it's sometimes, and this might be different, but in my experience, the last year that I was in the classroom, my 10th year, I had always thought that, and I was a social studies teacher too, that the highest level of being a teacher would get to teach the AP and the honors classes. And so I was teaching the honors classes, and we created rubrics. I said, okay, here's a project. Let's create this rubric together. What do you think would constitute like an A, and that you've really excelled and demonstrated? And they created, and they were more strict on it, I guess, than I would have been.
Yeah, right.
And then having an assessment where I said to them, you know what, here's a traditional test, or here's an alternative that you can use. And like half of the class was very excited about an alternative, like a flow chart. Like, tell me what you've learned and how these concepts are connected to each other. And in any way you could use pictures or images or full set, like, and then the other half of the classes were freaked out. They were like, this is not what we're used to. This is not how we are successful. And I'm like, tell me more. And they said, you tell us what we need to know, and then we memorize it and we give it back to you. And that's what has helped them achieve success. And so I appreciate that this is also like you have acknowledged the sentence stems and the scaffolds and the supports that are needed for students, even because this could be very out of their comfort zone and not what they're used to.
It really is. And it's interesting. And I think when I say this, a lot of people will understand this if you are an educator, that the students that struggle the most with initially with projects like this or this type of class, well, it's usually my higher achieving students, because they are so conditioned and they're motivated to meet the mark, right? They're already motivated, like whatever you say you want is what I'm going to give you. So when I tell them it's not what I want, what do you want? It freaks them out. I mean, it really does. They get really frustrated. I've had some major breakdowns with very, very competent, very high achieving kids who just want to know what the mark is, because we've taught them to hit the bullseye, but we haven't taught them to think for themselves and self-direct and persevere, right? And so that part of it, again, that's meeting those students where they are. That's meeting them where they need to grow. So it's interesting.
I worked with a group of teachers a couple weeks ago, and I was doing an opening activity protocol with them. And I said, draw a circle on your page. The teacher, and I had a visual up just because I had questions. And they're like, well, how big is the circle? Where should it go? To the left, to the right? I'm like, it really doesn't matter. Just draw a circle. And even the teachers acknowledged later on, they're like,
Being comfortable.
Couldn't just draw a circle because we wanted to know exactly how you wanted it. I'm like, it really, in the end, it was your circle. And the question, and I say and because I had the great fortune of listening to you speak last night with our friend Lindsay Prendergast and Star Saxstein. Oh my goodness, Star Saxstein. And you had this quote that I needed to text to myself. And you said, we're interfering with the natural learning process. And that just resonated with me. And I was hoping, I know you have spoken to that, but throughout our time here, but could you extend that or talk a little bit about your thought process behind that particular quote?
Yeah, it's really easy. I'm going to give you a super easy example with this. And if you close your eyes and you just imagine back when you were a young child, or if you have children of your own, when children are at play, we know playing when children are little is learning, in all different capacities. But imagine a child creating a blanket fort. And imagine the learning process that goes on. They have this idea of what they want to do. They work towards that idea. They lay the blanket over the chair, connecting to the couch, and they try to go underneath, and the blanket falls off. It doesn't work. So then they troubleshoot. They problem solve. Maybe I could do this with it. Maybe if I stuck it in this way or laid something on top of it. And they work, not because someone has told them this is what you have to do. This is what it needs to look like. They're honoring their learning process. You could apply that to anything. You could apply it to a 9-month-old learning how to use the pincher motor, muscles to pick up a Cheerio even and get it in their mouth. I mean, there's motivation, there's learning. And it's not because they know anything about a grade or pleasing or not pleasing their parent. It's because they want that thing. They want to do this skill. Or building a sandcastle, or tying a shoe, or seeing if I love my sons would play with, oh, come on, I can't think, like the Matchbox or Hot Wheels, the track, right? They'd have a track on top of something looping around, and they would do that forever to see what would happen and how they would get it to the car to do what they wanted it to do. That is a natural learning process happening. And when you apply an evaluative gaze to it as a parent, as a teacher, as a boss, you interrupt that. You apply your value to that learning. And that stunts it. And so getting kids back in touch with, what do you want to learn about? What do you think is interesting? What are your skills or strengths that we could strengthen even more? Have a chance to learn more about. What do you want to teach other people about? What's important to you? Like those things, getting them connected to that again in themselves is everything.
Well, I know that you are going to be in front of some young people soon. And one of the things that you shared in a post for Champion that I love, I'm holding this one dear. You say, I needed a champion to believe in me when I could not believe in myself. I needed a champion to fight for me when I could not fight for myself. And so we have this question for our folks who join us. What do you feel is your superpower?
You asking me that?
Yeah.
Oh, what is my superpower? I don't know. I don't know that question. I don't know. I think connecting with people is probably the thing. Is seeing people, seeing who they are. I mean, that's what I'd say.
We weren't going to let you off the hook. I was going to be like, oh no, we're not letting you go without recognizing the brilliance that you are.
Yeah. And speaking of connecting, how can people connect with you? What are the ways that it would be they hear this podcast, they're going to see this in the wonderful atmospheres and ecosystems that we share. How can folks connect with you?
It's really so. I only have like one thing really. It's just Twitter. I mean, it's just Twitter, Abigail French. It's AW French 1. That's it. And I love to connect because I've had the most amazing collaborations with people, connections with people through Twitter. I've met some of my dearest friends. And as we close out, I want to say one thing about ASCD, which is a community where the three of us have met. When I came back to teaching after 15 years of raising my kids at home, I was really like, it was a whole different ballgame. We were going one-to-one devices in my district. And when I left teaching, they were giving each classroom a classroom desktop computer because there was internet. Okay, so there was a lot happened over those 15 years, but I just remember wanting to be the best teacher I could be in this new kind of like arena. And I remember like reading an ASCD article or something on the website, and I saw about the Emerging Leaders program. And I remember looking at that year, it would have been like 2015, 2016's class. And I was thinking like, there could not be a higher honor given than to be recognized and admitted into a nationally recognized group to support you at your growth. And it like then to have been to experience that personally and to have met the caliber of people that I've met, like you, Craig, and like you, Krista, has been so valuable. It's been the most amazing thing. And I would encourage all listeners listening, how do you get started? You just get started. You get started, you go for things, you put yourself out there to do uncomfortable things and watch the growth that happens and the connections that happen. So I'm happy to connect with listeners. AW French 1 on Twitter, and it's an honor.
Thank you, Abby. You are such an inspiration. And when we got a chance to know you and your passion, you light up a room. And I love everything that you give for students and for teachers. And I'm excited for people to listen to this episode.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Well, SEL and EDU family, it has been an incredible time with Abby French. You better make sure you get connected. Like, there are so many gems that were here today, and you'll actually have an opportunity in so many ways to make experiences for young people most meaningful and even greater. Check out her out. Please do. All right. So I hope that each of you hold yourself and those you love dear in all that we face these days. But with the might that we hold, we hope that you stay strong, stay connected, and stay in love in this SCO life. Y'all be well. We love you.